So this is a more complicated word problem. There are a few more steps in this problem. Same thing, first we're going to read the problem and then we'll pull out information. So there were twice as many women as men in a hall. After 350 women left and 450 men entered, there were 3 times as many men as women. If 1,000 adults remained, how many adults were there in the hall at first? Whew, okay, this is one of those ones where I read at first and I think there are so many numbers, there is not a clear way to solve this, but I can figure out that there are groups of women and there are groups of men, and we're trying to compare those two things. And we want to figure out how many men and women there were at the beginning and how many men and women there were at the end. So let's see if we can pull out a comparison. So after 350 women left and 450 men entered, there were 3 times as many men as women. So there we go. We can start with a comparison. So we can take our women and make a little box. And then we can make a comparison for men. There were 3 times as many men as women. So that's going to look something like this, showing 3 times. So these are all equal. It's just there's 3 men for every 1 woman. All right, so we know that there were 1,000 adults at the end. So between these 4 boxes, there are 1,000 adults, and these 4 boxes are equal. So that helps us know, well, I can divide 1,000 divided by 4 and know that that is 250. So each of these is 250. So 250 women and 3 times 250, which again, this is a great thing to use a calculator for, but I happen to know that this is 750. And the trick to knowing that, 25 plus 25 plus 25, or 25 times 3, like 3/4 is 75, and we're working in hundreds, so I know it's 750. Okay, so that's kind of our first core bit of information. But like I said, this model is more complicated. So we have to go a bit farther because we're trying to figure out how many adults were in the hall at first. Well, now that we know at the end there were 250 women and 750 men, we can go back and get more information. So we know that 350 women left. So after 350 women left, we were left with 250. So if we want to know how many women there were at first, we'd say, well, that's the 250 that were left plus the 350 that left. And that gives us 600 women at first. All right, so we need to know how many adults there were at first. So that's 600 women. Let's see if we can figure out how many men. So there are 750 men at the end, and at the beginning, there were less than that because 450 men entered, which made this number get bigger. So we know, well, if there's 750 men, that was after 450 men entered. So we need to take those 450 men away to see how many we began with. 5 minus 1 is 4, 7 minus 4 is 3. So that means there were 300 men at first. So we always go back to our question, what is the problem asking us? How many adults were there in the hall at first? Well, there were 600 women at first, and there were 300 men. 600 plus 300 is 900. So there were 900 people, or 900 adults in the hall at first. So we started with our bar model. That gave us the comparison or the proportion of men to women. And then we were able to use the information it gave us to solve from there.